Welcome back to First Take. We're going to continue our conversation now in light of prosecutors in Kenosha, Wisconsin, deciding not to press criminal charges against the officers involved in the Jacob Blake shooting. So coming off of Max's comments in the last block, Dominique, what do you think that athletes can do to further raise social awareness as far as these social justice issues go?
Yeah, I think their actions just have to be more intense and more drastic if they want to have results. And I think Max was right in to point out the election of Warnock in Georgia as what appears to be progress. But to me, it often feels like, and maybe I'm just in a pessimistic mood today, but to me, it feels like the illusion of progress, because it feels like whack-a-mole to some degree for us, and not just us as black people, but us who want to make this country what it professes to be. Is it feels like once you get past Jim Crow, then there's redlining, and there's always something new, some other new way that you pop up. Like, it's not slavery anymore, so it's sharecropping, and there's new ways that the institutions kind of hold in place the caste that we've always been in. And the word caste comes to mind because of Isabel Wilkerson's book that goes into detail on all the many different ways that the country continues to perpetuate this caste system that we're under. So it's discouraging when you see results like this, and I guess it should be encouraging when you see things like what happened in Georgia yesterday. But I'm in D.C. When I came into the office today, there were thousands of people in the streets protesting an election that they believe to be rigged, that we all actually know was not rigged. So it's hard for me to be optimistic as a black person at this time. It's hard for me to get excited when I look at the history of this country. So I understand the Georgia thing is worth celebrating. I'm happy about it, but it feels like something something revolutionary needs to happen for us to break out of this pattern, because there are so many kind of hardened institutions that perpetuate these things, and we cannot break those institutions without some sort of revolution. And it's sad when the celebration is when we elect people who are not revolutionary. So, like, it's hard to expect a revolution. And I love the quote by Dr. King that you brought up last segment. It's a great quote. The arc of history bends towards justice. The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. Like, it feels good, but I don't know how true it is, because it doesn't feel like, I guess you could argue, if we're going from slavery to now, then actually we're closer to justice than we were before. But to me, justice is not something that is on a spectrum. Justice is or it isn't. So it's not something that you can get closer to. It is or it isn't. Just like in the case yesterday, either you charge them or you don't. They don't charge them. They're not getting justice in that situation. So it's hard for me to be optimistic. Sorry about that, Max. Go ahead.
No, not at all. I don't mean to interrupt. Because you brought it up, right. How do you square the moral arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice, with another Dr. King quote, justice postponed is justice denied. Both things are true, and it seems contradictory. But I referenced Stacey Abrams, who helped get Warnock elected, over Loeffler, who is the owner of the Atlanta Dream, right, who protested against Black Lives Matter. And so her own team wore T-shirts saying, vote Warnock. Yep. The person, their owner, the terminology even, right? The owner of the team was running against. They said, vote for the opponent, who is a black man, by the way. So I understand it seems contradictory, and you're right. Justice postponed is justice denied, which is, I think, what you were not just referring to, explicitly really stating. But Stacey Abrams, when you listen to her, I suggest to check it out on social media, talk about how she went, her great-great-great-grandparents were slaves, and then great-great-grandparents were sharecroppers, but she traces it, and in each generation, there was injustice, for sure, but inevitably, it led to the position she is in today. So, yes, it was denied for a long time. It was postponed for a long time, and there was because the moral arc of history is long, and the gradual process means that there will be ongoing injustice, and that is not to say this will take care of itself. Just let's deal with the injustice. No, and that's not what LeBron James is doing. When he puts together a group and says, I want to buy the Atlanta Dream, when he opens a school, when he doesn't simply have it, when there's an emotive issue around something like a police shooting a black man, it's appearing to murder him in cold blood, and then charges are not brought. It's not simply that LeBron James and other important athletes go away, they go and organize. Their efforts are redoubled as a result of stuff like this. And by the way, Stephen A. talks about this oftentimes. It's not enough just to be angry about it or to be indignant about it. You have to have a plan. And you have to, and by the way, throughout civil rights, Rosa Parks, that was planned. That was not spontaneous. And increasingly what I see, Dominique, is in sports, especially in the last decade or so, and certainly with LeBron, what you see is a plan. You see organization and planning, and I think that yields results. And though you have to take a kind of have a wide lens sometimes to see the results, there are moments like yesterday, for example, where you do see it.
Yeah, I mean, this show is certainly a debate show, but I don't want to turn this into a debate topic. But I'm struck with this one question, is how long do you have to organize and plan? And that, to me, it feels like with every subsequent generation that wants to continue this fight, everyone is kind of like, oh, but you got this benchmark. Oh, but you got this benchmark. 50 years ago, you couldn't do this, and now, look, you can do that. Congratulations. Oh, but you got here. See, we're bending towards justice. Like, no. Justice is justice or it's injustice. Like, we have been living in injustice in this country since its inception. I'm not going to, it feels insincere to celebrate every little minor moment. And I don't think that we shouldn't. Like, we should celebrate it. It's fine. But that does not give me the solace that I would need to think that we've gotten to somewhere that is that is closer to what we say we want to be. So that's the thing that frustrates me, is people use that Dr. King quote and people use other things and they look back and say, well, Stacey Abrams' great-great-grandparents were slaves. Or they look at my family and like my parents didn't get to go to college until after I myself was like in middle school. And like now you get to go to college, go to graduate school, play in the NFL. Like, yes, you can find these small victories everywhere throughout this country. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, there is no change in the wealth gap. There's really no subsequent change in power dynamics. And every now and then we win a Senate seat and we're supposed to be like, oh, but we're bending towards justice. It's either just or it's not. And in my view, it is not. And to me, that suggests that people who care about getting us to that place, and again, it's unfair that it always falls on black people and ridiculously unfair that it seems to fall on LeBron James or athletes like that. All of that is absurd. The people who are benefiting from this are the people who should be most passionate about addressing it and making this country closer to what it said it was supposed to be. But to me, that's the frustrating part. That's the disappointing part. And I suspect that people who care about this and want change, like, and the players, or we're talking about in this situation, like, how can you not look at this and think that more drastic measures need to be taken, or that if you can't get justice from not playing, from taking away your most power, then what are you supposed to do? And then people are like, but you won an election. You're good. Congratulations. That doesn't change. That doesn't change the fact that it is but. Okay, go ahead, Max.
It's not but, and I would never contradict or try to minimize your feelings about this, and I share many of those feelings. You're absolutely right, and you should be furious. It's beyond indignant. And then the question is, what are you going to do about it? And it seems to me that LeBron is doing the doing.
Right. But, I mean, I understand that, but, like, it's the doing is the same doing, and the results are the same results. Like, you're trying to say that we haven't organized before? Yes, we've been organized before. You're trying to say that we haven't protested, boycotted before?
No, the results are different.
Yes, we've done all that. And sometimes the result is the Civil Rights Act. But are we, like, substantially, or are we closer to equality or justice? Like, it's hard for me to feel like that is something that we can read on a spectrum. You're either equal or you're not. It's either justice or it is not. So, like, when people say that, like, but you got to organize and you got to have all this plan of action, all these plans have landed us in a place that we are on a sports show talking about police officers not being charged with shooting a black man again. Like, that to me is the thing that's frustrating and most disappointing. And I mentioned this earlier. I'm in D.C. now, and on my way into the studio, there are thousands of people in the street that I drove by that are trying to convince the rest of the world that this election was rigged or stolen or something. Like, it's hard. It's hard for me to feel optimistic when that's the world that we live in.
There was an attempt made,
that's what I'm
but
driving
not by
into.
the people they're referring to.
Right. So, yeah, so that to me, and I'm sorry to wet blanket this, and I want to be optimistic, but I can't lie about this. Like the history of the country does not give me confidence that we are going to reach justice, and this is not something that we can grade on a gradient, or it's like you can't get a B for justice, you can't get a C for justice. This is pass fail, and we failed.
Yeah, definitely, Dom. You make such great points. I think until we all band together, we're not going to see the change that we need and that we want, and frankly, that just hasn't happened yet. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for opening up and having part in that conversation. I know that it needs to continue, but we do have to move on here on this show. So,
Let's talk
Dominique,
about
we'll see you
football
in just a little bit. But coming
4-game trip like this from previous years, and hits keep coming back to comparing. I know it's unique in the pandemic, but how you get a team to 4 straight wins, staying in the hotel, thinking about other things. How have you guys kept the main thing in your words?
That's what it is. I mean, we're here to work, get better, and to win. We're in the winning business, and that's what we want to do. We want to continue to build great habits. And we're gonna have times where we don't play to our capabilities, but we still want to be able to create great habits going forward. And I think we did that on this road trip.
Even with the new players, are there times like in the closing lineup where you and AD already sort of know exactly what to do to close out a game? How much of that is conscious, and how much of it is just the way that you guys impact the game?
Well, I mean, who's ever out on the floor late in the game is a reason. It's a reason why they're out there, and we trust everyone that's out there, all 5 guys. So, I think tonight's closing lineup was myself, AD, Dennis Menace, Wes, and Kuz, and we was able to, close the game out in fashion and get some stops, timely stops, and get some timely buckets.
Dan Warkey.
Hey, LeBron, I'm going to take you away from the court for a little bit. Obviously, you guys played a game tonight, but there's so much going on in the world. In the morning, you guys find out that the officers in the Jacob Blake shooting won't be charged. As the day goes on, I'm sure you've got news about what's happened in Georgia and the turnout there and stuff like that. On nights like this, how are you able to focus on basketball? And I guess sort of your reaction to what else is happening? I mean, and all these other orbits that you have your fingers on.
Well, I'm smart enough to know that even though we're playing a game of basketball, that there's so much more that's going on in the world. So much more that's even more important than us playing a game. And to hear what happened in Kenosha today was a blow to the heart and to the gut. Not only to that community, but to us and to every, Black person that just has been a part of this process and seeing these outcomes for so long. And not only just in the Black community, but also in the white community as well, who see, moments like this happen to us, and to happen to his family, and to happen to the kid himself. To see that verdict, it was just, it was a blow to the gut, like I said, and a blow to the heart. But we got to continue to stay strong, continue to believe in each other, and continue to push for the greater of change and for the greater of good. And to hear, my people turn out in Georgia in the fashion that they did. I'm definitely going to get some more information on it, but I heard they turned out in Georgia, and that's commendable. It's something that we started with more than a vote, and we want to continue to do that and continue to support, actions like this and causes that went on today. And it's been going on, obviously. So proud of my people for getting out there and doing what they do best. So, and that's being heard and being seen and being powerful and being engaged. And, that's how it is.
Dave.
Brian, what does the next stage of More Than a Vote look like? You started in the summer. There was the big election in November, the runoff today. Can you take us forward as to what the next steps will be?
One, I can tell you, Dave, is that we're not going to stop. We're always looking for opportunities to continue to grow, not only in my community, but all over the world and all over America. As you've seen, we've been able to do since the summertime, all the way up into today. So we're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas, continue to keep our foot on, keep the pressure on going on how we continue to create change. And like I said, create change for, the Black community, but also just create change for the greater good. And we're looking forward to seeing what ways we can do and what we can do going forward.
A few more. Bill Orm.
Hey, LeBron. This is the first time we've talked to you about Jacob Blake since the bubble, and I'm wondering how this result, in if at all, changes is the wrong word, and I hate that I'm using it, but how that makes you look at what you guys did in the bubble when you know what you guys were kind of standing for together as a league. Does this result at all? How does that color when you look back at what you guys did as a league in the bubble?
Well, the best thing we were able to do in the bubble is that we were able to stand together and the strength in numbers, and we was able to showcase that throughout everything that was going on in America and everything that was going wrong in America, and we was able to voice those opinions and to voice those facts every single day. And I hope we can continue that now, even being outside the bubble, as I'm sitting here talking to you about, the verdict that happened in Kenosha and what's going on in Georgia. And there's going to be other instances that's going to happen throughout, the course of this season. And I hope that we all can continue to shed light on situations that, one, that we believe in, two, if it hits in our home or hits in our heart, that we can talk about it and discuss it, and also just be knowledgeable about any situation that comes out. So, like I said, it's a blow to our community once again. And we've been here before. It sucks. We feel sorry for his family and for that community itself. And we want better. We want better. And hopefully we can get that.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Last question, Kyle Goon.
LeBron, obviously we ask you these questions because you're an influential person in sport and culture. But after these things happen, you say things, there are people who are going to criticize what you say, who are going to criticize NBA players for sitting out, criticize Colin Kaepernick. That dynamic kind of continues to exist. Do you feel frustration about the people who kind of focus on the words you say or the means by which people protest rather than sort of the substance of what is actually being protested and what issues you guys are trying to draw attention to?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to always direct or deflect or just pull bits and pieces of your dialogue and try to make it for the better of what they want to hear or what they believe that you should be doing. And I'm past that in my life. I don't really care what people think, especially if it's negative. When I'm speaking from the heart and I'm speaking from a very knowledgeable point of view, I know what I'm saying is right, and I can care less what other comments or what people say, because at the end of the day, no matter what, we are all human. No matter the color of your skin, we all have emotions. We all have the same colored blood when it comes out. We all pull our pants up and tie our shoes the same exact way. So when it comes down to that, and I understand that, I know that me speaking about issues that's going on, and not only in my community but all over the world, or especially in America that I live in, this is our home base. There's not one person that doesn't want to see the greater of good for all of us. And it's unfortunate that we have some people out there that would rather see hate than love, and it's something we won't ever be able to change. That's just the way how life is built, unfortunately. But if we can get the majority on one side, on the side of love than hate, then we can do some special things. So I will continue to use my platform, use my my influence, and to continue to empower people, to continue to enlighten people on things that's going on that I feel that's just wrong. Today is one of those instances where we as a community feel like the verdict on that particular officer was wrong, and there's nothing else to say more about it. Appreciate it.